Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Serve Canada's Mental Health Youth Series, Elevate Yourself, supported by TD Bank. My name is Anu Srivastava, and I am the Executive Director of We Serve Canada, and I will be your host today as well. For those of you who have joined us earlier, you'll know that this is the second workshop in the segment Fitness and Movement category with the topic A Beginner's Guide to Cycling. First of all, I would like to thank all of you who attended our last workshop, Real Life Mental Benefits of Exercise and Fitness. It was a huge success. It was very well received, and on top of having a lot of live audience in our Facebook, we also got a lot of views in our YouTube. So thank you to both of you guys. I'm sure there are a lot of your followers there. So now let's begin this very exciting workshop. And I'd like to introduce my very special guests today. So please welcome Vanessa Bielecki, Miss Canada Tourism 2021, who is cyclist and a holistic wellness coach, and Zachary Ventura, a cyclist enthusiast, lifestyle coach, and a personal trainer. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
All right. Since last week, we already chatted about our just the benefits of exercise and fitness. But this time we are going to go into the real cycling piece of it. And I know that's all up in your alley. So without further ado, we are going to start into my first question. How much does a bike cost? Let's start with Vanessa, unless you want to give a little bit of a preview before starting my questions. So go ahead and do that first, maybe.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for having me back again today. Thank you everyone for joining in. If you're joining in live, I'm so happy to be here. As you can see today, I'm wearing some of my biking gear with me today. I've got my bike behind me. So it's perfect that you asked me to talk about how much a bike would cost and really what the price range is. So a bike can go as cheap as maybe like $20 at a garage sale if you get lucky. So if your eyes are peeled, maybe you live in Toronto, you're out on the weekends in the summertime, that's definitely one way you can go out and find a bike. So you can also find a bike by just going to a store and paying a few $100s for it, all the way up to race bikes, which go for tens of thousands of dollars. So again, like we mentioned before, when it's similar to asking the question, how much should I work out a week? How much will my bike cost? Very similar question. So you can buy some basic gear for biking as well. Now, it can be something you wear for running. It could be something you use for playing basketball. So it might just be some workout clothes you already have. What would be specific for would be maybe my bottoms. I have some extra padding in it. It's very breathable for when you get hot and sweaty in the middle of a ride. I would say to get a nice proper bike to get yourself up and riding in a weekend, it can cost you as little as, I would say, $200 up to as much as a few $1,000s as well. Zach, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that in terms of price range or maybe where people can find a bike.
I was thinking, Zachary, that maybe on the bike piece, you can maybe add what kind of bike it should be and any other equipments that go with that.
Absolutely. So first off, thank you so much for having me back, guys. Last time was sensational, and I'm really excited for round two again. And myself personally, I do many different styles of riding and stuff like this. So it depends on what you want to get into. For a basis, for sort of starting out, I would suggest something along the lines of like a hybrid bike, which is, it's fairly usable off the roads or on like a light gravel road and stuff like this. But it also works for you when you're on the roads in the city, and even like a commuter bike. So a hybrid sort of gives you the ability to do both of those. And generally hybrids aren't going to run you, too much money. But as Vanessa said, it also depends. You can go for a new bike. You can go for a used bike. You can, maybe you get lucky and you get your hands on a really good deal at something like a garage sale or something like that. But I would always usually suggest for a first bike, trying to, spend somewhere around about $600 to $800 if you're going to go for something like brand new, a nice hybrid bike that's not just going to fail on you right away, because that's obviously the worst thing. If you go, I always sort of want to mention as well, we should stay away from certain brands and certain places like Canadian Tire and Walmart and stuff like this, because they're selling very generic products that are not made with high quality. So if you go instead to a bike shop, and instead of spending $400 at Canadian Tire, you spend $600 or $700 at the bike shop, you're going to get something that's going to perform a little better for you and last longer as well. But at the same
sorry, that's my fire alarm.
But if you also really want to jump really deep into the sport, or maybe you want to go the mountain bike route, then things are going to cost you a little bit more money as well. If you're getting a mountain bike, you might want to spend about $1,500 or so. It really depends. You can go crazy with it. You can get in at a budget. But the key is to, have a bike, because the most important bike is the one that you're riding.
So Zachary, I have one question, because I'm kind of very much a beginner and I don't have much knowledge. So when you say hybrid, what does that actually mean? Like, is it electrical and like manual, or like what is it?
Absolutely. So the hybrid is more so like it gives you a little bit of off-road capabilities, meaning generally the tires are like a little bit thicker and the geometry is a little bit more comfortable, but it also works well on the roads. So you can use it in both of those scenarios, rather than if you simply had a road bike, you wouldn't be able to go off-road, or if you simply had a mountain bike, you wouldn't be very efficient when you're on the roads. So a hybrid, yes, or something like a gravel bike, which is essentially a road bike with thicker tires. These will allow you to operate in multiple scenarios. So that's essentially what a hybrid is. But no, we're not talking electric. We're going to use the leg power.
Yes. Okay, so and how do you maintain the bike? Like whichever, let's say you go for the basic one, then how would you maintain it on a regular basis?
Absolutely.
Vanessa, you want to add in, or Zachary, whoever?
Zach, if you want, you can take that. My fire alarm is going off here in the background. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So generally, whether you have, more of an expensive bike or a cheaper bike, you would maintain it the same way. But obviously, if you spent a lot more money, maybe you want to watch it a little bit more often, you're going to have a little bit more pride of ownership, of course. But basic things are you want to ensure that your drivetrain and your chain, all right, so the chain and then the little gears and stuff that the chain rides around, you want to ensure that those are generally chain lube, all right? And if it is wintertime and you're braving salt and stuff like this, you want to ensure you're giving your bike a nice hose down pretty much every time it's getting salt on it. So those are some very basic things, but if you maintain that drivetrain, then it's going to survive a long time. And you really should do your best. I know some people don't have the option, but try to leave your bike outside overnight, because consistent rain and snowfall and stuff like this, it's going to make everything a little more difficult for you. And one key point as well with the maintenance is after a lot of riding, you want to give your bike a little checkup. You want to make sure all the nuts and bolts are tight, because you'd be surprised with all that road vibration, things can really sort of come loose. So that's really, really key for safety. Maintenance is a lot about safety and for longevity. Yeah.
So I'll just ask, like, with obviously when you're riding the bike, you need the helmet, and I think Vanessa touched upon it a little bit. That what sort of other gear that you should be wearing, so that maybe, let's say, if you're wearing flares or something, that they don't get caught in the chain and things like that. Is there anything maybe you can just give a little bit of a highlight on the type of gear that you should be wearing?
Yeah, so it seems like you are a bit of a biker yourself. You're familiar with the pants and you have to tuck them in so they don't either get ruined from the chain or just caught in it all together. So yes, that's why you might see people wearing like more tighter gear when they're on the bike. So even tighter shirts, tighter shorts, and that's really so it doesn't get caught and pulled into anything. Same thing with like strings coming off your body. You don't want too many of those. Even a knapsack that you're wearing, it doesn't have long strings hanging out the back. Other things that you can have besides a helmet, nice comfortable gloves with padding on it. A lot of people have clip-in shoes. So your feet are actually, sorry, that's the fire alarm. Your feet are actually stuck into your bike. So you clip in and you have a little bit more control. So you kind of feel more in control of the bike and sort of one with it. But that also has a safety concern as well, because you have to unclip your foot and you have to be mindful that you don't fall. There are extras, like if you're first getting on your bike and you take the training wheels off and you're worried about falling on your elbows and whatnot, you can always wear the stuff that people like to wear with rollerblades, knee pads, elbow pads, and always for safety, you can even have like one person on each side of you if you're worried about falling.
Vanessa, if you have to go, there is a fire alarm, then go ahead. I think Zachary and I, we will just handle the rest of the workshop. So don't worry about that, okay?
It's much appreciated. It doesn't seem to be an emergency. I just hope the sound isn't too bad. I'll keep muting it when I'm not speaking.
No, the sound is fine. The sound is fine. But since you were talking about, the bike and the gear and all that, I really want to tell you that I learned how to ride a bike 30 years ago, and that was in India. And my neighbors, they were the ones who actually taught me. They used to ride on the either side of me, and that's why I remembered, because in those days the flares were on, and they would make me tape it up so that I would not fall or get myself caught up. But the interesting thing is that after that, when I came to Canada, and it's been a few years, I have not gone back to biking. But a lot of people have said that once you know how to ride a bike, you always do. It's not like you are going to forget it. So now with this workshop, I'm getting really excited and really motivated to try again. And so I'm going to do that. I just thought I'd pitch that in.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be like even like swimming. Everyone's like, well, you ride a bike, you don't ride it for so many years, you automatically know how. And that actually reminds me, you said you had two people riding on each side of you, like tandem bikes. So you can have someone attached behind you, helping you with balance. And as well, I'm so sorry about that. I hope it's not too loud for people's ears. When people go to Center Island, there's the 4-seater bikes. So there's many different versatile types of bikes. They kind of look like golf carts where you sit side by side and you pedal and you can kind of hang out and talk. So more of like a casual biking experience.
When you're talking about the tandem bikes, I just wanted to say that once maybe I was trying to do some kind of a charity event for Heart and Stroke Foundation. And what they had was like they had like 20 bikes all together, and 20 people were riding it all at the same time. So, but they were all attached, and it was some kind of a charity thing, and it was in Toronto. So that was very, very interesting. I just remembered that. Anyway, since we're talking about the bike, how can we track the outdoor biking progress? Like what type of goals should one have in place, and how often they should be biking? Maybe Zachary, you want to give a heads up on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just for, the latter part of the question, how often should someone be biking? It really depends, as we sort of mentioned in our previous talk, what your goals are. But if you sort of want to just maintain a bit of a healthy lifestyle, then I would suggest something like about 50 kilometers per week or something like this. But like I said, if you want to be sort of competitive, you better do 50 kilometers a day, or almost, So yeah, it really depends. In order to track your progress on the bike, your kilometers, as well as your sort of competitive edge compared to other people, there's an application called Strava. This is basically, quintessential. Everyone in the cycling community around the world uses this. And you either have it on your phone, on an application, or you actually have little mini bike computers, or it also works on a Garmin watch. And you start it up when you start your ride. It tracks you through GPS coordinates the entire time. So it's going to tell you how far you've gone, how fast you've gone. And the coolest part, sort of the competitive element I'm mentioning, is it also tracks you through specific segments. So segments are when you pass a GPS coordinate, that begins a segment. And then when you sort of cross the secondary, GPS coordinate, this will end your segment. So this will essentially rank you against every time you ever completed that segment, as well as every other person who's on Strava throughout the history of the setup of that segment. So when you get either a KOM, a King of the Mountain, or a QOM, Queen of the Mountain, you've actually just beat out potentially hundreds, potentially thousands of people for time trials. So that's really the most fun part. A lot of the time when you're going out and training, people really love that. So Strava, I would suggest as soon as someone starts getting into riding, download that application, track, everything you do, and then at the end of the year, it's going to tell you how many kilometers you've also sort of accrued, which is pretty fantastic.
So I had one question. When you talked about that you can start off with the 50 kilometers a week or whatever that is, do you need to train on, I don't know, maybe a Peloton bike or something like that to be able to actually go and venture outdoor? Like, would you think that would be like a sensible thing to do first, or you can just go out there?
Well, I believe that, the Pelotons and stuff like this, they're really ideal if you want to sort of take your training to the next level, especially over the winter months and stuff like this. Or potentially if you have some injuries and, being on the road is maybe not the safest thing for you. But that's the beautiful part about biking. Anyone in any level can just sort of hop on and get right to it. And, it doesn't have to be 50. It could be 30. The key is to just get some motion and some movement every day. Or, at least 4 times a week or something like that. You just don't want to always pressure yourself when you're starting out with specific goals, unless you are very goal-oriented. But you definitely don't have to be on the Peloton first. Just get outside, you'll enjoy yourself a lot more being in nature and stuff like that. And,
Right.
Progress, sometimes it's little steps, sometimes it's big leaps. You just go at your own pace, whatever works for you.
Right. So since we're talking about outdoor and we are into the winter months right now, and I don't think I'm going to ask this question from Zachary because I can't say I can't ride the bike in winter because you do. So somebody who doesn't, what else can they do?
That's such a good question. Yeah, thank you, Zach. One thing I want to add about the Strava Zach was talking about is that it's free as well. So it has so many neat features that you would think you have to pay a lot of money for it. But what he was describing, it's free. There is a paid option where you can just kind of for yourself, more of like a fitness diary, but it's a great resource. All right, so for indoors, this is actually something that I'm focusing on this year. Winter kind of snuck up. I'm in a new place, and before I know it, I'm in the middle of winter and I don't have a training bike for the indoors. That's good news for me because it's giving me time to strengthen all of my other muscles. So I'm still getting ready for the biking season, but in a little bit of a different way now. So like Zach mentioned in the last workshop, where you can follow along to a YouTube video, you can use some weights. I have some weights over here, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, 25s. And I'm more than able to do a workout in my house without going outside anywhere. And not only that, I think people would have questions about cardio. I go outside to get cardio. I go outside to get my heart moving. So how can I do that indoors? Like I mentioned last time as well, running up and down stairs, if you have any. I know it's not the funnest thing to do, but neither are burpees, and we should do those too. It's really just following along a video if you can to another like cardio workout. So you won't just be running in one spot since you don't have a treadmill, you don't have a bike, but you can do a lot of maybe like circuits or activities added up together that can bring your heart rate up, and that can really work those muscles as well. So, and even when you do get that heart up a bit, you can go on your balcony or you can go in your backyard and bring your workout out there as you warm up. But for indoors, I would definitely say, even though you don't have a bike indoors, you can definitely work on your balance indoors. For one, holding onto things as you're building up your stability, following workout videos, and then just really thinking about cycling in the summer as you get excited to fuel your workouts while you're indoors in the winter.
Right. So one of the things I remember one of you had mentioned that cycling is a sport that you can do alone or you can do it in a group. So of course you can do alone when you can do it alone. But if you're looking for a group and like you, Vanessa, you went to a new place and so you're looking for friends or maybe other cyclists or bikers. So how, like, I mean, where would you find those people? Is there like Strava? Is there something else that is there that would connect you all together or something like that?
Totally. Well, you just brought up Strava, and that's another great way to meet people. So you might see people that go on the same segments as you, so have a similar bike route, maybe someone that lives nearby, which is really great because you want someone that lives nearby that likes an activity that you like as well. So for me, when I'm thinking of meeting people this summer, I'm either thinking about meeting them in that way or really just out in the world. So you have to create opportunities for yourself to meet people and create opportunities for connections and building relationships. So, when we're out, maybe just like keeping one headphone in just in case maybe someone's talking to you, or you can be more aware of your surroundings. So it's really just being open-minded and being willing to meet people, because how oftentimes you're outside and you just see people with tunnel vision, just focusing on their breath work, which is fine. That's their alone day for biking. But then you see other people who are just like smiling and looking out in the world and also enjoying their bike ride. And so, yeah, for me, my dream is I'll be on such a tough bike ride. I'll be stopping, getting a drink of water, and then I'll see another girl with another bike and she'll be getting her water, and then we'll just be best friends. And so I'll let you know in about half a year if that's how it goes.
And what about you, Zachary? Because you're out in the cold, and I don't know how many people are adventurous enough to do that.
Absolutely. So, out in the cold, if I'm going to specific fat biking sort of groomed trails, which are also for usually like skiing and stuff like this, then, if you find someone who's riding, it's just an instantaneous connection. And very often you begin to ride together. Then you add each other on Instagram and, you're friends for life and stuff like that. So a lot of what sort of Vanessa was mentioning is organic. Funny enough, the way that I got in contact with Vanessa is her boyfriend was actually riding in downtown Toronto on a really cool bike. And, it's a fixed gear, like I was riding at the time as well. So I stopped him and I commented on his bike and we started talking about gear, stopped for probably about 20 minutes, added each other or found each other on Strava. And then I met Vanessa through that as well. So it's pretty cool. And then, so there's these organic ways of sort of meeting people, but there's also some really good resources. Generally, local bike shops and stuff like this might actually have group rides that they post on their website or their Instagram. Or there's certain things like in Toronto, there's actually a fixed gear group of riders that run, and some of them run an Instagram page. So I ride with them all the time. And that's how I found them as well, was actually through Instagram. So you want to check all these local resources, or just Google like local bike groups and stuff like this. And, it might be a little tough if you're trying to join a professional group, but there's a lot of local communities and stuff like that. And cycling, the way it brings people together in the community aspect is definitely one of the best parts of it.
Okay. I think I'm going to ask this question from you, Vanessa, is that what do you think is the best thing to eat before and after biking?
Ooh, excellent. So me, myself, I'm vegan, so I don't eat meat. So maybe, Zach, if you have like a different viewpoint on this afterwards. Well, without going too much into it, though, I think it's important to have carbs before doing any really intense cardio activity. And that would be something maybe like an hour before, giving you some time to rest and digest just before you go out so you don't get a cramp. So making sure when you come back as well, you have protein waiting for you. And I say carbs as well. If you're out on a bike ride, you come home, you can eat, you got to get your energy so you can go out the next day. And so, like I say, during the winter, you have to eat to grow. So whatever you expel, you want to replace it and replenish it with something that's hopefully healthy and adding to your body. So I remember last time we were talking about if you go out, you come back in and you eat a pizza, it's not getting rid of the work that you just did, but you just want to be a little bit more mindful of replacing the things that you lost with something that's better, that's a good building block for your body. So, something you can go out before, something you can eat before going out, maybe I would say like some healthy bread with like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like people at high school, you can make that. It's just something quick you put together, just like a quick sandwich. And maybe even like a protein shake. You can always have one of those before too if you want. when you come back, hopefully you can have like some potatoes, or even I would say like some craft dinner. That's when you can also have like the pizza afterwards. I find before you might just feel like sluggish, it might slow you down. So if you are going to have that bigger meal, I would say have it after your ride, when you need the extra energy.
What do you think, Zachary?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you're going out and cycling, we burn a lot of calories, especially once you get into these bigger rides and stuff like this. Personally, I actually do a lot of intermittent fasting where I only eat, I do OMAD, I do like one meal a day where I eat once a day a lot of the time. But I don't suggest that for everyone. It takes a lot of time to sort of get into that. I think prior to riding, it is great to have some carbs as well as like healthy fats. So some specific things that I usually suggest are like avocados. All right, a lot of nuts are great as well, and nuts are fantastic to bring on the ride with you. Just make sure you're not bringing nuts with like a whole bunch of extra sugars added, as well as granola bars. I always have granola bars on the ride if I know I'm going to be doing a big ride. But once again, you want to avoid all the processed sugar and stuff like this. So I usually go like Lara bars or good to go bars. I also do like cans of tuna sometimes before I'm riding. You get all the omega-3s as well as some protein as well. You need fuel because your body is a machine and it burns that fuel in order to perform. And then after the ride, you get to usually indulge a little bit more. Just for an example, I did, a 300 kilometer bike ride over the summer. And yes, my smartwatch, my Strava and everything, it actually told me that I burned about 10,000 calories that day. So not only did I have to pre-fuel with whole foods that are, close to the earth and healthy, but I also had to consistently eat while I was riding. So every few hours, I had to have some nuts, some granola bars. I had to stop for some sandwiches. At that point, I was a bit ravenous. I was just eating whatever I could get my hands on. But when you burn that many calories, you can sort of break the rules a little more as well. And then just like Vanessa said, protein shake at the end of it all, a nice hearty meal. You got to replenish and enjoy it because you really deserve, you deserve that replenishment.
Oh my God, that is very, very impressive. This brings me to the last question, and that is that what advice do you have for beginners or any of the bikers, who are out there who are debating what to do? So what would be your advice? Maybe we can start with Vanessa.
All right. Thank you for asking. So my first thing was just say, open your door and just do it. So make that initiative to take your first step to just going out to ride a bike. It doesn't necessarily mean like going around looking at all the garage sales so you can find a bike to ride. It just means going out and renting one of those green pea bikes and just testing it out for the day, seeing if you like it. Making a group chat with your friends and saying, hey, does anyone have a bike from when they were younger? I find that you talk to a lot of people, they might just have some family bikes, and between you and a few friends, you could probably pull together enough bikes that everyone would need. So surprisingly, bikes are more common than not, I find, with people, and especially in family households. Then the next thing I would say is maybe look on the weather for a day that's not super, super windy. If you go out on your first day riding and it's windy, you probably won't enjoy it as much. So not so much of a windy day, some nice weather, and I want to say increase the chances for your success. So if you go out with a friend, you bring lots of snacks with you, maybe you would make it a destination to go eat some food, or, before when there was like Pokemon Go, a little app that you could play on your phone, you would go on your bike and catch Pokemon. So sort of like making a game out of it. I know my partner and I this summer, what we want to do is find a destination point, and then we'll both race to the point and see who chose a better route or who went faster. So I think it's just really being creative in the way that you're biking and who you're biking with, and like I always say, like without finding an excuse. So just finding a way to make it happen and taking that first step. Another thing would just be watching YouTube videos, inspiring yourself to go out there, looking at videos of other people riding their bikes and just seeing how versatile it is. Are you into downhill biking? Do you think you'd want to bike on a road? Or are you just thinking that you're not old enough to have a car yet and you just want a vehicle to get to and from school and the weather's warming up? So yeah, I would just say start Googling it and get out on one of those green pea bikes.
That sounds excellent. Do you want to add anything to that, Zachary?
Yeah, there's always something to add. Vanessa, you really nailed it on so many fronts there. But the key, I think, sort of as I mentioned previously, is don't overcomplicate it. You know, you don't have to download Strava. You don't have to go on all this fancy gear and turn it into sort of that. It can be a little bit overwhelming. You just go outside, be a little bit leisure with it, and just really enjoy yourself at the end of the day, right? Sometimes if you treat it like a competition, it's going to create a little bit more of that limbic friction inside your mind and stuff like that. And when you get the motivation, you want to sort of act quickly on that as well, because that motivation can be fleeting. You want to take action usually within about 5 minutes. That's sort of how our brains operate. So just get out there, enjoy yourself, and maybe, you know, we can say if we're going to go to the grocery store and grab a coffee, maybe instead of taking your car, you just take the bike and turn it into a bit of a commute and stuff like that. Yeah, so just have fun. You know, once you're outside, you're going to feel better. It's just like that resistance, you know, of going to the gym. Once you get to the gym, you do those first few reps, you're always happy that you ended up over there. So just use that philosophy.
Well, thank you, both of you. This wraps up our second workshop on fitness and movement. In case we have not answered any of the questions from the audience, then feel free to send it to us in Instagram at We Serve Canada. So thank you to all of those who have joined us here today for such a great conversation. It was so motivational. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank both of you. You were absolutely amazing, and you were so gracious to join us and share your knowledge and your expertise. And I'm sure that with everything that you guys have said, that people are going to be motivated to start cycling. So thank you so much, Vanessa and Zachary, for partnering with We Serve Canada's mental health series supported by TD Bank, and inspiring our viewers at home to stay fit and healthy. So stay tuned now for our next segment, which is going to be nutritional counseling to improve mental health. That's going to be again next Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And to find out more about the series, definitely follow us in our social media handles. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay healthy and elevate yourself. Thank you.